She doesn't come back for your words. She comes back for your silence, because silence is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of power, the kind of power that unsettles her mind when the man she thought she understood suddenly becomes unreadable. Most men try to talk their way back, texting, explaining, proving, hoping to fill the void with words. But every sentence you send only reminds her that you're still chasing, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man trying to be understood by someone who's already decided not to listen. Brother, silence speaks differently. It doesn't argue. It doesn't justify. It simply is. It's the space where her certainty begins to crumble, where the quiet becomes louder than your presence ever was, because in that quiet, she starts to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time: doubt. Doubt about her choice, about her control, about the story she told herself when she walked away. You see, silence doesn't push, it pulls. It bends her emotions back toward the stillness she thought she wanted but can't handle. That's the paradox of power. The less you try to be felt, the more you are. So, before we begin this journey, ask yourself, are you the man who reacts to silence, or the man who commands it? Drop a 1 if you still fight to be heard. Drop a 2 if you've learned to let silence speak for you. Start this journey now. Like this video if it hits your truth, and subscribe to Stoic Station for daily lessons in discipline, detachment, and direction. Because what comes next, brother, is the moment she feels the shock of your silence. Let's dive in. 1. The shock of your silence. Brother, silence isn't empty. It's a mirror that reflects everything noise used to hide. When you went quiet, she didn't just lose your words, she lost her anchor. You became the calm after the storm, and in that stillness she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: uncertainty. She was used to your presence, the good morning texts, the constant reassurance, the rhythm of your attention. It became part of her daily heartbeat. Every reply you sent told her she was still in control. She didn't have to wonder, didn't have to work for your attention, because it was always there. And then one day, the rhythm broke. Her phone stayed quiet, but her mind didn't. You probably thought silence would make you seem weak, that if you didn't explain yourself, if you didn't chase, she'd forget you. But silence doesn't erase a man. It amplifies him. It's not a void, it's a vibration. It turns your absence into presence and your stillness into gravity. The human mind fears what it cannot predict. And when you withdrew, brother, you broke her pattern. You triggered something powerful: cognitive dissonance, the tension between what she expected and what she now feels. She told herself she didn't need you, that she'd already moved on. But the mind can't rest when it's forced to believe a story that doesn't feel true. So now she's fighting a quiet battle within herself, trying to prove she's fine while secretly wondering why your silence feels so loud. She replays your last words in her head over and over. She scrolls through old photos, looking for signs she missed. She tells herself it's nothing, but it doesn't feel like nothing. It feels like something inside her just fell out of place. That's the hidden power of your silence. It isn't passive, it's psychological. It forces her to feel the weight of what used to be light. You see, brother, that's the first law of silence. The moment you stop chasing, she starts searching. You didn't vanish. You simply disrupted the rhythm she was addicted to. And when the pattern breaks, emotions rush in to fill the gap. She begins to miss what was once ordinary: your voice, your presence, your stability. The shock of your silence isn't just about missing you. It's about realizing how much she relied on you to feel grounded. Because when you stop reaching out, you don't just remove attention, you remove validation. You remove the mirror she used to see herself through. And suddenly, she's left with the reflection she'd been avoiding, one without your reassurance. That's why silence is more powerful than any speech you could make. Words can be argued with. Silence cannot. It forces her to meet herself, to confront the truth she tried to bury beneath her pride. And that truth is simple. She didn't think you'd actually walk away. Most men panic here. They break their silence too early, trying to reclaim control. But Stoic men understand something deeper. Real control isn't about what you say. It's about what you no longer need to. Your restraint becomes your language. Your distance becomes your statement. When you stop fighting for attention, you teach her to value it. Silence, when used with purpose, doesn't mean indifference. It means evolution. It's the moment a man reclaims his power from reaction and turns it into direction. It's not the end of communication. It's the start of transformation. And while she's busy wondering what changed, you're already becoming someone she no longer understands, someone she once thought she had figured out. Brother, silence creates space, and in that space, perception grows. The woman who once took your presence for granted will now feel your absence as a lesson, not because you punished her, but because you respected yourself enough to stop performing. That's when the dynamic shifts. When a woman can no longer predict you, she begins to feel you again. Your silence speaks what words never could. It tells her you've reached a place where peace matters more than validation, where clarity matters more than closure. And that's when she starts to listen, to the silence, to her own heartbeat, to the echo of the man who used to answer every call, but now chooses calm over chaos. So remember this, brother, you didn't disappear. You evolved. You didn't abandon the connection. You restored balance to it. The man who can hold silence doesn't lose power. He becomes the power. And that's the real shock. The moment she realizes that your absence doesn't mean you're gone, it means you've become untouchable. Now ask yourself this. Have you ever felt that kind of silence? The kind that doesn't need to prove anything, yet says everything. 2. The void begins to echo. Silence isn't the end, brother. It's the beginning of the echo. When your energy disappears, her mind doesn't rest. It rushes to fill the void. That's what psychologists call the void effect, an emotional vacuum that bends thought and memory back toward you. You removed your presence, but you didn't remove your impact. In fact, your absence magnifies it. At first, she feels free. The air feels lighter, the tension gone. She tells herself it's a relief not to have your messages, your steadiness, your voice. But comfort without contrast fades quickly. The human mind can't stand a hole. It must fill it with meaning. And when her days grow quiet, her thoughts start wandering into that empty space you left behind. This is where the rewiring begins. She starts rewriting the story of what you were. The flaws that once annoyed her blur into softness. The strength she used to overlook becomes magnetic again. Distance doesn't delete your memory, it purifies it. Her mind filters out the chaos and holds on to the calm. You become the man she remembers in fragments. The tone of your voice, the patience in your silence, the way you made her feel without saying a word. And every quiet night starts to replay. Every song she once ignored now feels like it was written about you. She scrolls past your name and pretends not to care, but her mind whispers, "Did I overreact? Was he really the problem?" That's how the echo begins, not as a sound, but as a question she can't silence. You've become the echo of her own choices, brother. You didn't beg to be remembered. You became unforgettable through your absence. The void you left didn't swallow you. It reflected you. Your silence is now her mirror, showing her what she once had and what she can't reach anymore. That's the paradox of distance. The further you pull away, the closer her thoughts move toward you, because the mind doesn't crave what's available, it craves what's unresolved. The more she tries to bury the memory, the louder it echoes back. She may distract herself, fill her days with noise, scroll endlessly, meet someone new. But at night, when the world quiets down, that echo returns. It's not anger anymore. It's curiosity. Not bitterness, but longing. Brother, this is why your silence must be intentional. You don't disappear to punish her. You disappear to let truth reveal itself. You're not forcing her to remember. You're giving her the space to see what memory chooses to keep. That's how attraction through absence is built. Not by chasing, but by stepping back with dignity. The echo will grow louder the longer you hold your peace, because every unanswered thought feeds it, every unspoken word strengthens it. You've become the reflection her mind can't escape, the calm in her chaos, the presence in her emptiness. That's the weight of real masculine stillness. It doesn't fade, it reverberates. And here's the truth. Regret never screams, brother. It whispers. It whispers your name when she least expects it, when she's out with someone else and laughs a little too hard, when she scrolls through old conversations and pauses on your last message, when she wakes up at 2 a.m. and the silence feels heavier than it should. That's when she hears it, the echo of you. So let it echo. Let her sit in the quiet you created. Let her wonder why your silence feels stronger than her pride. Because that echo, that restless reflection, is where her realization begins and your power returns. Tell me, brother, have you ever felt that moment when your silence stopped being distance and started being gravity? 3. The power shift. Every relationship runs on rhythm, action and reaction, push and pull. There's always a dance between two energies. One leads, one follows. And for a long time, brother, she led that dance. She knew exactly which buttons to press, which silences to hold, which glances to give to pull you closer again. When she withdrew, you chased. When she pulled back, you leaned forward. And that rhythm made her feel safe, because she was in control. Your reactions were her reassurance that she still mattered, that she still had power. But something changed. You stopped reacting. You stopped being predictable. And in that moment, the rhythm collapsed. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was disorienting. Because when a man who once over-explained suddenly says nothing, when a man who once sought her attention starts giving it to himself, the balance shifts. Silence, brother, steals her script. The dance she choreographed for years has come to an end. Now she's waiting for a text that never comes, a reaction that never arrives, a confirmation that no longer exists. At first, she'll pretend not to notice. She'll tell herself she's fine, that she doesn't need your attention. But pride can only cover confusion for so long. Her ego will whisper, "Stay proud," but her curiosity will betray her. She'll check your profile, scroll your posts, wonder if you're really as calm as you seem. The woman who once ignored your presence now quietly studies your absence, because the unknown is addictive, and mystery is the currency of attraction. This is where the psychological reversal begins. When you were predictable, she felt secure, even when she didn't appreciate you. But when you became unreadable, her emotions shifted from certainty to curiosity, from control to craving. She used to define your worth by your reaction to her moods. Now she's the one reacting to yours. The man who once sought validation has become the validation itself. There's a deep truth behind this, brother. The human mind doesn't crave what it understands. It craves what it can't explain. When you stop feeding her ego with instant responses and emotional displays, she has to find new ways to interpret you. And that's when attraction is reborn. Not because you changed your words, but because you changed your energy. Your stillness became her question mark. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you stopped chasing, you changed the color of hers, from confidence to confusion, from control to contemplation. She begins to wonder who you've become. Why isn't he reaching out? Did he move on? Did he stop caring? Or did he finally see through me? Those questions don't just live in her mind, they echo through her emotions. And every time she asks them, your silence answers louder than any words could. This is the power shift. You're no longer orbiting her world, she's revolving around your gravity. And that gravity isn't built on arrogance, it's built on discipline. It's the quiet strength of a man who no longer needs to prove his worth through reaction. You've stopped giving away your energy for free, and now the energy itself is what draws her back. It's in this space of uncertainty that she feels you the most. Because when she can't predict you, she can't forget you. Your absence becomes the contrast against which every other man looks dull. She realizes too late that control without connection is hollow, and silence without your presence feels heavier than any argument ever did. So the question isn't whether she'll come back, it's when. Because when you stop chasing, you don't vanish. You create curiosity. You become the test she can't pass, the calm she can't replicate, the closure she can't find. That's what silence does. It doesn't end the story, it rewrites it in your favor. Now, brother, the only thing that stands between you and the full shift of power is patience. Can you hold your silence long enough to let her ego collapse? Can you trust the process long enough to let curiosity turn into craving? Because here's the truth, the moment you stopped reacting, you stopped losing. That's when everything began to tilt, slowly, quietly, inevitably, in your direction. And maybe that's what true strength looks like, not in proving a point, but in becoming the point, not in being loud, but in being felt. Tell me, brother, have you ever felt that moment when the world stopped spinning around her and she started orbiting you? 4. The discipline of disappearance. Disappearing isn't running away, brother. It's realignment. It's the quiet act of returning to center after losing yourself in the noise of someone else's validation. Most men go silent out of anger or pride, but a Stoic man, he goes silent for clarity. You're not avoiding her, you're rediscovering you. The world calls it withdrawal, but it's really reconstruction. You're stepping out of the chaos not to punish her, but to remember what peace feels like when it belongs only to you. Every ounce of energy you once poured into chasing her, proving yourself, explaining your worth, that becomes the fuel for your evolution. The same intensity that once made you desperate now becomes the force that makes you disciplined. That's the transformation silence brings. Your quiet isn't avoidance, it's construction noise. It's the sound of a man rebuilding from the ground up, one boundary, one breath, one moment of restraint at a time. But don't mistake this path for an easy one. At first, the pain feels unbearable. Your mind races. You want to check her page to see if she misses you. You want to send that one message, not for closure, but for comfort. You want to prove that you mattered. Yet every time you resist, you grow stronger. Every time you choose stillness over impulse, you teach your mind a new language, control. This is where detachment is truly forged, not by pretending you don't care, but by refusing to perform your pain. You no longer turn your wounds into a stage for her attention. You no longer seek healing through her reaction. The discipline of disappearance is about restraint, the decision to face your own emotions instead of using hers as an escape from them. You stop asking, "Will she notice?" and start asking, "Will I improve?" That's the essence of masculine maturity, to suffer with purpose, to endure the urge to react, to let discomfort shape you instead of define you. Because when you can sit in silence with your own pain and not move, when you can let the ache pass through you without reaching for distraction, that's when transformation begins. The silence that once felt heavy starts to feel holy. The loneliness that once burned begins to heal. You realize that you don't need her presence to feel full. You just needed your own. You disappear not to hurt her, but to heal you. You delete her not to erase the past, but to reclaim bandwidth for your future. You're not hiding, you're hardening. You're not retreating, you're refining. This kind of disappearance doesn't come from weakness, it comes from wisdom. The wisdom to know that some wars are won by walking away, not by fighting harder. In time, she'll sense it. Even from miles away, she'll feel the shift in energy, the absence of your emotional dependency, the presence of your stillness. She'll sense that you no longer need her energy to breathe. And that realization will shake her more than any message you could send. Because when a man stops chasing, when he withdraws with peace instead of bitterness, the silence becomes magnetic. It speaks of growth. It speaks of power. That's the paradox of the disciplined disappearance. You lose nothing by leaving, but she loses the reflection that once validated her. You don't disappear to prove your worth. You disappear because you finally know it. And that's when peace becomes louder than attention. The world might not notice immediately, but she will. The energy she used to take for granted now feels like something rare, something she can't recreate. Brother, the real strength isn't in how loud you can roar. It's in how quietly you can rebuild. When you stop trying to convince someone to see your value and instead commit to becoming invaluable, you rise. The silence that once hurt becomes your armor. The stillness that once scared you becomes your weapon. That's the discipline of disappearance. It's not about absence, it's about alignment. And when you finally stand in that peace, untouched, grounded, self-contained, you'll realize that the version of you who once chased was only a draft. The man you're becoming now. He's the finished chapter. Tell me, brother, can you imagine how powerful it feels when your peace becomes louder than her attention? 5. The rebirth of the man. When she left, brother, you thought you lost everything. You thought love was supposed to complete you, that her absence would leave a void too deep to fill. But what if that loss wasn't destruction? What if it was the beginning of rebirth? Sometimes life has to break a man open before it can build him right. Pain doesn't come to punish you, it comes to purify you. It strips away the illusions, the false layers of who you thought you had to be loved. Pain revealed the truth. You weren't broken because she left. You were already fractured by what you believed about yourself. You were the boy inside who thought love meant being chosen. That if you just gave enough, tried enough, stayed long enough, someone would finally see your worth. But love doesn't work that way. The breakup didn't destroy you. It exposed what was weak, what depended on approval to survive. Every minute you once wasted overthinking, every night spent replaying old conversations, is now a brick in the foundation of the man you're becoming. The same thoughts that once drained you now drive you. The gym becomes your temple. The quiet becomes your forge. You train, you build, you read, you evolve. You learn that the discipline you apply to your body reshapes your mind. Every drop of sweat becomes a declaration, I am rebuilding. But brother, this path isn't free of doubt. There will be nights when the loneliness feels heavier than iron, when the silence feels endless, when you question everything. Was it worth it? Will she ever see? And you must remember, she's not supposed to see yet. You're building in the dark for a reason. The roots of a man's strength grow where no one is watching. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins here, in solitude, under silence. This is the battlefield where you stop reacting to pain and start responding with purpose. You learn to hold your emotions like a sword, not a shield. You stop needing validation to feel alive. You stop confusing attention with love. The man who can control himself no longer fears loss because he's realized the truth. Nothing external can complete him. Your mission now isn't to get her back. It's not to prove her wrong or show her what she lost. Your mission is to become the kind of man who doesn't collapse when love leaves. The kind of man who doesn't chase approval because he already embodies self-respect. You're not trying to rebuild what was. You're creating something that never existed before. A version of you that stands tall in silence, moves with intention, and lives with clarity. Rebirth doesn't happen with noise. It happens in stillness. It's the long walk back to yourself. It's the morning you wake up and realize you no longer check your phone for her name. It's the moment you walk past her memory and feel peace instead of pain. It's the realization that everything you lost gave you everything you needed to grow. That's what the rebirth of a man looks like. Not loud, not dramatic, but quietly undeniable. And one day when you rise from that silence, you won't be chasing love anymore. Love will chase you. Not because you begged for it, but because your energy changed. You became the calm she can't find in anyone else. You became the certainty she once took for granted. The man who once waited for someone to see his worth has become the man no one can ignore. Brother, that's the power of rebirth. You didn't need her to validate your transformation. You just needed time, solitude, and faith in your own evolution. And when you finally meet her again, if life ever brings that moment, you won't be the man she left. You'll be the man she'll never forget. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to become the man she can't recognize anymore? The man who rose from silence, not to prove a point, but to live with purpose. Because when you stop waiting to be chosen, you discover the truth. You were never broken, only unfinished. The rebirth isn't coming, brother. It's already begun. 6. The stillness that commands. Stillness isn't weakness, brother. It's composure under chaos. It's the art of standing still in a world that worships reaction. Everywhere you look, men are told to respond instantly, to text faster, argue louder, prove harder. But reacting doesn't solve anything. It feeds the storm. Every word sent in desperation, every attempt to explain yourself, only gives more power to the chaos you're trying to calm. The truth is, silence is not the absence of control. It's the highest form of it. When you stop explaining, something changes. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability in the emotional world is fascination. A man who doesn't rush to clarify, who doesn't rush to prove, who doesn't fight for approval, he becomes a mystery. And mystery is magnetic. You no longer exist as an option she can read. You become a presence she can feel but can't define. That's when curiosity replaces comfort, and suddenly your calm begins to draw her in. But here's where the test begins. She'll try to shake that stillness. She'll send the breadcrumb text, the casual, "Hey, how have you been?" She'll post a story designed for you to see, pretending it's not for you. She'll find ways to pull at your emotional threads, hoping to feel the old reaction she once controlled. But brother, understand this. She's not reaching for you. She's reaching for reassurance. She's not missing your words. She's missing the power your reaction once gave her. And this is where your growth is tested. Every time you stay centered, every time you refuse to take the bait, every time you choose stillness over engagement, you remind her of something powerful. The storm no longer moves you. The same triggers that once made you panic now meet silence. The same games that once made you chase now meet composure. That's how she learns that the man she used to manipulate no longer exists. This is what emotional dominance through restraint looks like. You no longer control her actions, you control your reaction, and that changes everything. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That truth is the foundation of every Stoic man. You cannot dictate how she behaves, but you can decide how you show up in the face of it. You can choose to lead with calm instead of chaos, with direction instead of desperation. And when you do, she feels it. Your silence begins to echo in her mind. Your stillness becomes the energy she can't escape. Because here's the paradox. Your calm becomes her chaos. She starts to question why you're not reacting. She wonders why your peace feels so steady, why your silence feels so loud. The woman who once took your attention for granted now has to earn it. The man who once over-explained now speaks through presence alone. That's the kind of power the modern world rarely sees, a man whose strength isn't loud, but unshakable. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about mastering yourself so completely that nothing outside of you can disturb what's within. This is the quiet authority of a Stoic man, the kind of energy that doesn't demand attention because it commands it. And when you finally master that stillness, you realize something profound. Calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. The more centered you become, the more everything around you starts to adjust to your energy. People speak softer, arguments fade faster. Even her curiosity becomes quieter, heavier. She starts to feel what used to be your chaos, only now it's hers. So, brother, understand this truth. Stillness is not surrender, it's strategy. It's not indifference, it's discipline. Because the man who can remain unmoved while the world trembles around him isn't powerless. He's untouchable. The quieter you become, the louder your presence grows. Now let me ask you, have you ever noticed that moment when your silence shifted the entire dynamic, when your calm started speaking louder than her noise? Because that, brother, is when stillness stops being survival and becomes command. 7. The moment of return. And then one day, brother. Her name flashes on your screen. 2 simple words appear. Hey, how have you been? Your pulse jumps before your mind does. For a second you feel that familiar spark, that rush of old memories flooding back. You can almost hear the echo of who you used to be. The man who lived for her validation, who stared at his phone waiting for a sign, any sign that he still mattered. But that man is gone. This is where everything changes, because now you don't respond from emotion, you respond from evolution. You don't speak to prove your worth, you speak because you already know it. You don't reply to feel seen, you reply from vision. You no longer crave closure, because you are the closure. Every unanswered question, every sleepless night, every silent morning already shaped you into a man who doesn't need her recognition to validate his peace. When she reaches out, she's expecting the same version of you, emotional, reactive, available. The man she could pull into conversations with ease, the one who over-explained, who apologized too quickly, who made her comfort his priority. But this time, she's met with something new. Stillness, composure, confidence, direction. Your tone is calm, your presence grounded. There's no trace of the old desperation, just quiet certainty, the kind that says, I'm good, truly. That's the moment the illusion shatters for her, because suddenly she realizes she didn't just lose love. She lost leadership. She lost grounding. She lost the steady energy that used to make her feel secure, the emotional gravity that once centered her world. And now she's standing in the aftermath of her own decision, realizing that while she was chasing freedom, you were building strength. She'll reread your message more than once. She'll analyze every word, searching for the man she once knew, the man she thought would always be there, waiting. But she won't find him, because the version of you that once needed her has been replaced by the version that outgrew her. She'll feel that void, not because you're absent, but because your peace has made you unreachable. Understand this, brother. She's not coming back because you begged, explained, or tried to convince her. She's coming back because your silence became louder than her pride, because the weight of your absence finally overpowered her need to stay detached. That's not manipulation. That's natural consequence. When a man withdraws with calm and purpose, the world that once took him for granted begins to feel his absence, like oxygen leaving a room. And yet here's the truth most men miss. Her return isn't the reward. Your rebirth is. The real victory isn't her message. It's the fact that it no longer controls your emotions. You can look at that text, smile, and stay grounded. You can reply, or not, from a place of peace, not pressure. That's when you know you've won, because her presence no longer defines your power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." And in this moment your composure becomes the purest form of that philosophy. You're not cold, you're centered. You're not punishing her, you're protecting your growth. You've mastered what few men ever do, emotional self-governance. So, brother, ask yourself this. If she came back today, would you still be the man she left behind, or the man she could never handle? Because that's the paradox of power. When you stop needing her return, that's when she finally does. But by then, you'll understand something deeper, that the real full circle isn't her message appearing on your phone. It's the moment you realize you don't need to answer it to feel whole. 8. The Stoic truth. You don't need her to. She will come back, brother, 100%. But by the time she does, you'll be someone who no longer needs her to. That's the paradox of power. When you stop reaching, the world starts returning. Most men spend their days chasing closure, validation, and recognition. They want to hear the apology. They want to feel seen. They want to know that walking away meant something. But none of that brings peace, because peace isn't given, it's claimed. You've already walked through the fire, through silence that felt endless, through nights where you questioned your worth. You faced the ache of absence and didn't numb it. You faced it head-on. You've walked through the ashes of what was, and instead of collapsing, you rebuilt, slowly, quietly, stronger than before. That's what she'll never understand, that your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. That every moment she mistook for weakness was actually transformation in progress. And now, when she looks back, she sees something she didn't expect. Calm where there was once chaos. Direction where there was once confusion. A man who used to explain now simply embodies. The energy that once poured into her now radiates inward, into your mission, your growth, your craft. But for her, it's too late. Because the man she's meeting now isn't the same one who begged to be understood. He's the man born from her absence, the version of you that couldn't exist until you let her go. She thought your silence meant indifference, that your distance meant defeat, but now she knows it meant evolution. What she once called cold was simply clarity. What she thought was rejection was really rebirth. She's realizing too late that while she was trying to find herself, you already had. And that truth, brother, cuts deeper than anything you could ever say. But here's the lesson. You don't win by proving her wrong. You win by outgrowing the version of you that needed her approval. You don't need revenge. You need respect. Not from her, but from yourself. The kind of respect that comes from staying silent when you could have spoken, walking away when you could have argued, and choosing peace when your ego begged for war. That's the quiet victory only the disciplined ever feel. When she finally returns, you'll feel the shift. She'll speak softly, test your tone, look for signs of the man she left, and instead of bitterness, she'll find composure. Instead of longing, she'll find lightness. You'll welcome her peace, but you'll guard your purpose. Because this journey was never about making her regret leaving. It was about becoming the man who no longer waits to be chosen. The man who learned that self-respect feels better than validation ever did. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the Stoic truth in its purest form. You never needed her closure. You never needed her confession. You just needed to master yourself. Because when a man masters his emotions, the world no longer decides his peace. He does. So remember this, she will come back 100%. Not because you begged or proved or chased, but because your absence became gravity. But by the time she does, you'll already be gone. Not in distance, but in depth. You won't need to run from her because you've outgrown the version of you that waited for her. The man who once needed to be chosen has now chosen himself. And that's the highest form of freedom. The moment you stop needing anyone to see your worth is the moment everyone begins to feel it. So, brother, when that day comes, when the message appears, when the past knocks, don't see it as a test of love. See it as proof of transformation, because the man who masters silence masters life. Brother, if there's one thing this journey has shown you, it's that silence was never the end. It was the lesson. Every unanswered message, every night you fought the urge to reach out, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because the man who learns to stand alone learns to stand above. You didn't lose her. You found yourself. And now you finally understand the paradox of power. She will come back 100%, but you won't need her to. So take a breath, brother. Look at how far you've come. From chaos to calm, from reaction to control, from chasing love to becoming it. This is the circle of return, not hers to complete, but yours. Tell me in the comments, what part of this silence changed you the most? Was it the pain, the peace, or the man you became because of both? Like this video if it spoke to your soul. Subscribe to Stoic Station for daily lessons in discipline, detachment, and direction. And remember, peace isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of purpose. Your stillness is your statement. Your calm is your comeback.